the Racing Postcast in association with Paddy Power. They stream all UK and Irish racing live on your mobile, tablet or PC.
A warm welcome along to the Racing Post 2016-2017 Jumps Season Postcast. We are looking ahead to Cheltenham, but before then we'll be looking at all the big autumn highlights, the Hennessy, the Victor Chandler Chase as it now is, King George, etc. We'll be looking and seeing who's going to be champion jockey, champion trainer, and hopefully generally fill your horse tracker with beasts that you must back whenever they run. I'm Bruce Millington and I'm delighted to be joined by a very special panel including Tom Siegel, price-wise. From County Carlow, it's Patrick Mullins, son of the all-conquering trainer Willie, and from Paddy Power, Frank Hickey, who made such an impressive postcast debut on Friday and told everyone that Al Manzoor was a near certainty. So he was. So we've got the expertise. Let's get some prices and some views. We'll start off with a little look at who's going to be champion trainer and champion jockey. Obviously, champion trainer last year was extremely exciting, went right down to the wire. Messrs Nichols and Mullins slugging it out. Frank Hickey, how did Paddy Power bet on the trainer this season?
We are 1-6, Paul Nichols, 7-2, Winnie Mullins, 8-1, Nicky Henderson, 14-1, Dan Skelton, 20-1, David Pipe, 20-1, Colin Tizard, 25-1, Philip Hobbs, 33-1, Gordon Elliott, and 50-1 Barr.
Patrick, are you spitting with outrage that they've written you off with a 7-2 quote, or are you going to lump on?
No, I think that's pretty realistic. You know, after the losing the Gigglesdown horses, I'd imagine the English title is going to be very difficult. So I think that's probably about right. That Paul Nichols is 1-6.
At what point would it come on your radar? I mean, if you do absolutely knock it out of the park before Christmas, might you start raiding a little bit more regularly thereafter?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, you know, obviously last year we had a lot of good horses to keep apart, so we were able to go across to England quite a lot. But, you know, we lost 60 horses from the champion owner in England and Ireland, so a lot of quality and quantity there. So I imagine we won't be raiding quite as much. So, you know, I think I'd say we'll be going across the water a lot less this year.
And of those 60 boxes that suddenly became empty, how many still are empty, Patrick?
None. We're full again.
God, that's not bad. You didn't mess around there, did you? Blimey.
No, it's great. You know, a lot of people have been very supportive, and yeah, it was great. We didn't have to let go of any staff. You know, so it's great that we got them all still back up.
Great stuff. Tom Siegel, any juice in this market for you?
Not really, Bruce. I think you probably should be 1-66. Nichols, if Patrick says there that Willie's not coming over as often as he was last year, then I can't see anyone getting anywhere near him. I suppose Dan Skelton's the up-and-coming force, but I can't believe he's going to have anything like the firepower of Nichols, and therefore I can't see any possible way he'll get beat unless they all fall over.
But Tom, obviously, you know, Nichols has made a fantastic start. He's had a very busy summer. You know, he's already mopped up plenty of prize money. Does he actually? I know. You know, it sounds semi-ridiculous given what an awesome trainer he is and the success he's had down the years. Does he have the actual big guns, the real big-name horses that are definitely going to mop up these six-figure prizes, though?
No, but I think he's got more than he had last year, and he still won it last year, Bruce. I can't recall him winning too many big races last year at all. I think he's got better handicapped, and I'm sure he's got more firepower in there this year than he did last year. So I cannot honestly believe he's going to do any worse than he did last year, and last year was good enough. OK,
top jockey, presumably it's equally dominated by one person, is it, Frank?
Oh, it's very one-sided. It's 1-14, Richard Johnson, 6-1, Sam Twiston-Davis, 25-1, Aidan Coleman, and 66-1, Barr.
I don't think, Tom, we need to dwell too much on that one, do we? Particularly with poor old Sam languishing in hospital.
Well, that's the point, though, isn't it? I mean, I always think these jump jockeys markets do have a bit of value each way in them, simply for the fact that injuries are so commonplace, aren't they? You know, if anything happened to Richard Johnson, then whatever Aidan Coleman was there, what did you say, 16-1 or something? Looks pretty good to me. I think he's going to get lots of rides for John Joe. He's now freelance, so I think he's going to be the Jim Crowley of the jump season. I think he's going to be massively up for it. So I would think he might be the one if something happened to Johnson. But if Johnson stays fit, then it's 1 to 114, isn't it?
Okay, let's get stuck in then, and we'll start with the staying chaser division. Absolutely packed with stars, packed with potential. We've got the potential return of Coney, the question of Don Cossack, whether we'll see him again, various question marks over who will go for what. And, of course, the mighty Thistlecrack is stepping up over the larger obstacles. So it's going to be absolutely fascinating. So, there is so many exciting, thrilling, enthralling strands to this jump season. But I think the staying chase division is going to be the one to keep the eye on. And I guess to set the scene and to remind everyone who we're talking about at the top echelon, Frank, give us a show for the 2017 Cheltenham Gold Cup, if you would.
Thistlecrack is our favourite at 6 to 1. Vautour is 7 to 1. Don Cossack 8 to 1. Coney is 10 to 1, as is Q Card. Duvan is 12s. Jack Adams 16 to 1. More of that, Carningford Lock, Vroom Vroom Mag, Kilolta Vic, all 16 to 1, and it's 25 to 1 bar.
God, Tom, those names just trip off the tongue, don't they? It gets the heart warm just listening to them, doesn't it?
Yeah, really looking forward to it, Bruce. I mean, I'm at heart I'm a bit of a jumps man, so yeah, it's nice to hear those names after the flat season. Yeah, can't wait.
Who's going to win?
Well, Thistlecrack's the starting point, isn't it? It's amazing to have a favourite for a Gold Cup that's never jumped a fence. I mean, I personally, that's not the type of bet I would want to be thinking about. Obviously, the key, and Patrick will be able to help us out here, is the plans for some of the Mullins teams. I'm pretty sure he'll say they're all up in the air and things will change, but I'm a massive Vautour fan. I'd love to see him have a crack in a Gold Cup. I know you, Bruce, think he's got no chance of ever staying a Gold Cup trip. I disagree. I think he does. I'd love to see him in there. Patrick can fill us in, I hope.
Go on then, Patrick. At this stage it's obviously ridiculously early and we're not going to pin you down and hold you to anything, but just from the stable's perspective, which of the horses that you are on the radar for the Gold Cup at this early stage?
Well, Jack Adam is the obvious one. I think he's a big price there. When you consider the two horses that have beat him the last 2 years are probably long odds against to make it back. I think he's a big price for a proven horse. Duvan will probably start off over 2 miles, and we might work his way up maybe. Again, he's going to be a horse that we're going to have to see how the season progresses before we make plans. But I mean, he's definitely a possible. Vautour, I'd love to see Vautour in the Gold Cup as well. I think he'd stay. I think he'd jump. I think he'd do everything around there. Again, he's a horse that twice now before major festivals his work has been kind of average. When he was a novice hurdler in Punchdown, we put him back from 2 miles to 2.5 because it was later in the week. And obviously in Cheltenham as well. So he's a horse that maybe we're just going to have to take less notice of his work at home. Because he seems to produce on the track anyway.
When will we see Vautour and Duvan, do you think, at this stage? And Jack Adam, for that matter. Have you got anything penciled in for them?
Look, we all know what that is like with plans. Trying to get him to decide he's having breakfast is hard enough. But Jack Adam won the John Durkin last year. And over 2.5, that mightn't be a bad starting point for Vautour either. So the John Durkin will be possible. I think that James Nicholson is, well, they're not hitting James Nicholson, but that meeting always comes too soon for us anyway. But, probably end of November, start of December, around that kind of time, that's the usual time when we get our big guns out and going,
Excellent. And how have they all summered? Do we use that? We always say wintered of flat horses, so how have they got on during the summer? Are they back in and looking great?
Yeah, I mean, they're all back in. They all look well. It's funny, I remember York Hill came in last year and we all kind of thought, geez, he didn't do well at all, and yet it didn't affect him. He came out and he had a fantastic season. So maybe sometimes we look into that too much. But no, they're all back in. They're all on the gallop, and touch wood. This is the brilliant time of the season because they're all sound, so all the dreams are alive at the moment.
And what about Thistlecrack, Patrick? What do you think of him? Obviously absolutely exceptional last year as a staying hurdler. There is still, though, a bit of a bridge, isn't there, from that? You can't just assume he's going to take to it. If he does, he's obviously going to be sensational, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's a horse that he's just anyone who likes jump racing, you get a thrill watching him. He's a fabulous horse to watch. In Aintree last year, he tried to run away with Tom Scudamore down to the last, which is, just extraordinary. You don't see that at that level. It's a big ask, but it's been done. Obviously, Coney Reid did it, and Captain Christie, so it is possible. We're just going to have to wait and see what he jumps like. Obviously, Big Bucks was a fantastic staying hurdler, but he wasn't a fantastic staying chaser. So we're just going to have to wait and see. But it's a hugely exciting part of the season to watch unfold.
Absolutely it is. And Tom, a quick word on the last two Gold Cup winners, Coney Gree and Don Cossack. What would your view on their respective chances of coming back from injury be?
Well, the vibes about Coney Gree are a lot better than they are about Don Cossack, I think. I think we're going to see Coney Gree pretty soon, as soon as the ground gets soft. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we ended up seeing him in the Hennessy first up, because he likes Newbury, he's likely to get his ground there. I think he's much more likely to get back than Don Cossack from what I gather, but nonetheless, it's still a big ask. He missed all of last season. To come back and take off where he was as a novice would be fantastic to see, because he's a fantastic horse. He was brilliant in the Gold Cup that day. I was going to ask Patrick about a couple of his others, Kilalta, Vic and Black Hercules. Do you think are they back on the radar? Would they be on the Gold Cup radar, or are they is that a bit too far for them?
Kilalta Vic would probably be, he got injured quite late last season, and he's going to be a slow burner through the season. I can see him maybe coming back after Christmas, and I think it'll be a big ask of that kind of preparation to go for the Gold Cup. So, while I wouldn't say definitely not, I would say doubtful. Black Hercules, I don't know the way he races. Obviously we brought him back in trip from 4 miles to 2.5 last year, and I know Dad has in his head that he could come back to 2 miles, even the way he jumps and the way he travels. It's not impossible to go for the Gold Cup, but for me, he probably looks like a Ryanair horse more, would be the more obvious choice. Again, we'll have to see if he's more settled in his racing this year. The Gold Cup definitely comes into consideration, but racing like he raced last year, I think a 3 mile 2 might be tougher.
And Patrick, on Duvan, my absolute favourite. He's such a great horse. What would be the determining factor? You said you're going to start him at 2 and maybe step him up. Would that be based on what's right for him, or how that dovetails with the general stable plans, as far as whether he stays at 2 miles and goes to the champion chase or steps up?
Well, sure. Look, there's going to be a lot of factors. I mean, he's a horse that might just be as good as we've had. So at the end of the day, it's going to be what's right for him. But you're going to have to look at the contenders in all the different categories, from our stable and from other stables as well. Look, there's all the options are open with him because of the ability he has. We don't know whether he can go 3 miles. The way he settles and jumps, you'd think he would. Then you have to ask the question that he's so good over 2 miles, should you go up? Now, to me, the Gold Cup is the pinnacle. So if you have a horse to go win the Gold Cup, you try and win it. So I don't know. I mean, my father is going to have to do a lot of thinking, and he's just said, as the season goes on, he'll take into account what's happening and make decisions as they come.
Frank Hickey, let's get your Gold Cup verdict.
My heart sank there as some Hobbit, Bruce, when Patrick said that Kilalta Vic mightn't make the Gold Cup, because I'm already after backing him. I think if he were to go that way, I think he's a great chance. Just when you look at the fact that Coney Gree and Don Cossack are coming back from injury, Tiscrack yet to jump a fence. Q-Card's probably too old, and then Kilalta Vic's a novice hurdle form when he did actually beat Tiscrack. Is as good a form as you can get. So I thought he was a bit of value at a big price.
Get over it. Come on, who'd you fancy now then?
I still think...
You've gone to bits on me. How much did you have on? 10 grand? Come on, man. Pull yourself together.
If I had to back one at this stage, I'd probably have a flyer on something at a big price like Native River.
OK. Tom, if you had to back one, just give me the name of the horse. Who would it be?
Votor.
And Patrick, same question to you.
I think Jack Adams would give me it each way at 16 to 1.
Excellent stuff. OK, so obviously, well before we get to Cheltenham, we've got some smashing racing coming up, 2 big chases. The Bet Victor Gold Cup obviously used to be the Paddy Power. You're not allowed to sponsor that anymore, so it's got a change of name, but it's still a very big race. And how do you bet on that one, Frank Hickey?
It's 10 to 1 Bristol de Mai, 10 to 1 Garla Victoire, 12 to 1 Double Shuffle, 14 to 1 Lammy Surge and King Socks, 16 to 1 Alamumu, Bunduma, Henryville, Josses Hill, Tacken de Soy, Village Vic, Vonley de Thay, and Frodon as 20-1 bar.
Okay, and we'll stick with you for a Hennessy show, and then we'll come for some views on those two races.
Yeah, just 1 minute there.
I think Native River, who you just mentioned, is probably heading up the market. It's pretty open, isn't it? Both these races are absolutely wide open at this stage.
Yeah, it's 10-1 Native River, 12-1 Avon 2, 14-1 Black Lion, and O'Foylan's Boy, 16-1 Coney Gree, Cololta Vic, and Thomas per 2.
That'll do us. And Tom, we haven't done this anti-post in the paper yet, either of these, have we?
We haven't got the weights yet, Bruce. We haven't even got the entry, so it's been. I think the plan is to do them, or we'll definitely do the Hennessy very soon. Interesting races, aren't they? Clearly, and can't wait for them to start. I was quite interested in John Joe's horse that ran over hurdles the other day, Takan de Soy. He won the JLT a couple of years ago, one of those. I thought he had sort of missed out last season, but he ran okay at Cheltenham, and he's back on a mark 156. It's sort of okay. He was. I thought if you watch the Ballyoptic race at Chepstow from a couple of weeks ago, it was a really good race. That normally we don't get that standard of horse running at Chepstow at this stage of the season. Patrick will remember Ballyoptic very well from Aintree. I won't mention any more, Patrick. When he beat you, did he beat you short head with you on Shane's Hill? Was that right? I can't remember.
A neck on Bell's Hill, I think.
Bell's Hill, that's it.
Longshot Ted keeps telling me that Ballyoptic will win the World Hurdle this year, by the way.
Well, he might do. He's a very good horse. He's a very improving, tough, staying horse. I thought that was a really good race, and I thought Tack Anderson stayed on really well. So, I haven't really gone into it in great depth, and we don't know the weights yet, but I think he's the type of horse that John Joe might be able to get back, and he might run well.
Patrick, have you got anything likely to come over for the Bet Victor and also the Hennessy? And the other one I want to ask you about is the Betfair Chase. Obviously the £1 million Triple Crown is in action again. They announced it about 3 days before the Haydock race last year, so you didn't really have a chance to get anything done. You've got plenty of notice this time. What's the kind of raiding parties going to look like for those 3 races, do you think?
I'm not sure we'll have much for the Bet Victor, possibly the likes of Ballycasey and Elche, but we might have good pots at home for them. For the Hennessy, Avon 2, that's his aim. He was in a bit early. The Hennessy is usually on a bit early. Our horses aren't maybe 100% ready for it. So not too many runners in it, but Avon 2 came back in early. He's won at the last 2 Punchdown festivals in competitive handicaps. He's won over 3 miles. He's a 6-year-old, second season novice. I think he ticks a lot of the boxes. Now he rated 154, which is plenty high. But I think he'd definitely have to have a sneaky chance.
Patrick, did he come back in earlier with the aim of the Hennessy? Is that right? Because I remember Jack Adam got there, and everyone sort of thought he was a bit of a certainty, and he sort of clearly needed the race a bit. Was that the plan for Avon 2 straight to go to the Hennessy?
Yes. Well, he might even have a run beforehand, but he came back in early with the view of going to the Hennessy.
My ears have pricked up here. Avon 2 for the Hennessy. And what about the Betfair? Anything likely to come over for that, do you think, Patrick?
I'm not so sure. It hasn't really been discussed. I'd be surprised if we did. Again, it's a very competitive race very early in the season, and our horses maybe aren't as wound up then as other people's.
£1 million though, Patrick.
£1 million, yeah. It'll be in Dad's mind, but it hasn't been discussed yet. So unfortunately, I can't tell you one way or the other.
Jolly good. Let's look at the 2 mile chasers and the champion chase betting, if you would, Frank Hickey.
It's 4-6 Duvan, 4-1 Sprinter Sacra, 16-1 Undaso and God's Own, and 25-1 Bar.
Tom, what's going to happen in that race?
In the Queen Mum, Duvan's going to win.
Yeah?
Yeah.
He'll stick at 2 and he'll win, will he?
Yep.
Patrick, if it's not Duvan, who might it be?
Very, very tricky. Sprinter Sacra, I mean, his last season was amazing, but it's hard to think he'd come back again, isn't it, as a 2-miler? Undersold looks like he's not at his best on good ground. If it came up anyway, soft there, you definitely have him. So it's a little bit murky division at the minute in my book.
Okay, well, we'll have a look at that. But certainly, I mean, this is the thing, isn't it? When you're looking at what Duvan's season is going to look like, that 2 mile prize does twinkle, Tom, doesn't it? It looks like if you want to get a win in a at the top level at the meeting, then
yeah, I know.
That's the one.
I agree with Patrick entirely about the Gold Cup being the one race, but you can't. The Champion Chase is a fantastic race in its own right, and I think Douvan deserves a shot at it. You know, he's won over 2 miles at the last 2 festivals. He's got so much pace. He's a horse to dream about, isn't he? So I would love to see him have a crack at the Queen Mother. We can always go do a sort of a, you know, go up in trip afterwards. I think Q-Card might have run in a few in a Queen Mum in his time, and then go up in trip afterwards because he's still a young horse. Sorry.
Quarter Star fell in it, didn't it?
Yeah, Quarto Star fell in it, didn't it? And, you know, go up in trip later. You know, he's still a young horse, isn't he? So plenty of time for him to run the Gold Cup. I'd love to see him in a Queen Mum. I'd love to see him against Sprinter. What a great race that would be.
Tom, some of us have backed him at 20s for the Gold Cup, so keep pipe down, please. Right, let's have a look at the hurdlers.
Here's Paddy Power's latest horse racing offer. It's money back as a free bet if your horse finishes second to the SP Fav in all races at one meeting today and at one meeting every day this month. Max £25 per race, 18 plus, gambleaware.co.uk.
Welcome back to the Racing Post Jump Season Postcast. It's Bruce Millington, Tom Siegel, Patrick Mullins, and from Paddy Power, Frank Hickey. We've looked at the staying chasers, we've looked at the 2 mile chasers. Let's look at the hurdlers. Frank, how do Paddy Power bet on the champion hurdle?
We're 9-4 Annie Power, 3-1 Faugheen, 8-1 Apples Jade, 12-1 Altior and York Hill, 16-1 Yanward, Vroom Vroom Mag and Jottas Hill, and 20-1 Bar.
Various Mullins inmates, past and present there. Patrick, take us through the battalion.
Annie obviously did the business last year, which was fantastic for her to get back, third time lucky. She, you know, I think she'll probably be aimed with a view to going back there to regain her crown. Faugheen is back in.
How's he doing?
He's good. We're taking it slowly, but you know, it's injuries we've had before. I think Hargan Fly has a very similar injury. He came back, so touch wood, all will be all right. But we probably won't be any rush with him.
3 miles possibly for him.
He's won over 3, and he'd stay. It's not out of the question. You know, there's he can probably go back to Kempton anyway over 2 miles at Christmas, maybe go for a hat-trick in the Christmas hurdle and see then. But it's there's been no decision made yet.
Okay, and Vroom Vroom, I guess there's about 38 different races she could run in, isn't there?
Vroom Vroom is amazing. I mean, if she ran in the Grand National, I'd have money on her. And yes, she won a 2 mile grade 1 hurdle. She is probably going to continue her super sub role in that wherever between jumping fences and hurdles, you know, wherever maybe Annie and Faugheen and Douvan and Vautour fall, wherever an opportunity arises between them, she'll probably be super subbing in, and we'll, you know, she can do anything. She's an extraordinary mare that she can go ground, heavy ground, chases, 2 miles, 3 miles, hurdles. There's so many options with her. It's brilliant.
If you did have to, obviously you don't have to, but if you had to say one race at Cheltenham that you'd give her the best possible chance, well, I suppose it would be the mare's race given the quality of it, but which one would you most like to see her in if you were taking a bit of a chance?
She's not qualified for the 4 mile chase, unfortunately. So I'd love to see her in the World Cup. I'd like to see her, but you know, we'd like to win the World Cup, but I don't think she'd be out of place in the World Cup. You know?
Excellent. I do not want to scratch fresh wounds, but would it be fair to say that of all the 60 that were taken away, that Apple's Jade would be the one that caused as much pain as any? How good is she?
Well, she could be anything. I mean, her performance in Aintree was just outstanding. But Aintree can throw up funny results like that. I find you can, whatever way the track is, you seem to get a lot of long distance winners. You know, our O'Connor looked out of this world against 4-year-olds when he was in his restricted area, and he was still a very, very good horse when he came into open company, but he wasn't just quite there. So it's going to be difficult for a 5-year-old and a mare. But she could be anything. You know, she could be the next Dawn Run, and you know, she was. If she goes to champion hurdle, you know, she's going to take a lot of beating. But you know, Don Polly and Blow by Blow are 2 other horses there. They were the 3 really for me. So yeah, she's going to be very hard to beat.
Okay, Tom Siegel, your reading of the champion hurdle situation at this early juncture.
Well, I think it's pretty common knowledge, Bruce, that I've got pictures of Annie Power all over my... You know, most people have Reading Football Club, all over their wall, or Pretty Girls. I've got Annie Power. I'm the biggest Annie Power fan there's ever been. I think everyone knows that. I've been saying it for years. I think she is the business.
Have you ever patted her?
Nope.
I have.
That's not fair.
Anyway,
not fair.
sorry, go on.
I don't think there's a horse in the universe that could give her £7 in any race. I think that she's only been beaten once, hasn't she? And that was over a trip too far. Can't wait to see her again. She'll win the Champion Hurdle doing handsprings.
Really?
Yeah,
Blimey.
she's far too good for them, Bruce. She's
what price is she?
Brilliant.
Frank, what price Annie Power for the Champion Hurdle?
9 to 4.
Is that value, Tom?
Well, I think there's bigger prices than that around. I think Paddy Power clearly on my watch. I think there's 3 or 7 to 2, 4 to 1 floating around. I think 4 to 1's a great price. Yeah.
Okay, and Frank, what do you think will happen in the Champion Hurdle?
I think, similarly to Tom, I think Annie Power will be very difficult to beat, as I think it's unlikely that Annie Power and Faugheen will run against each other. So I'll be in the Annie Power camp.
Okie dokie. Right, let's have a look.
Patrick, can I ask about one horse, York Hill? Will he? Can I ask about York Hill? I thought he was brilliant in the Neptune, was it, or the 2.5 mile? Clearly, 2 miles wouldn't be a problem for him. Is there any chance he'll stay over hurdles, or is he definitely going chasing?
Yeah, there's no decision made yet. And that Dad's still thinking he could be a fantastic hurdler.
Yeah.
He could be, without doubt, he could be a champion hurdler horse. But he's won a point as well, and he's got the physique to go chasing. So, again, I'm afraid that no decision's been made. But he still could stay hurdling. Yeah, that's very possible.
Cool, because I'd never seen it. He was so keen, wasn't he, in the 2.5 miler, and he still finished full. I can't wait to see him over in a strongly run 2 miles. I think it'd be perfect for him.
Now, Tom, we've already upset Frank by talking about Kilalta Vic and the fact that he might not win the Gold Cup. We've upset. We've upset poor old Patrick with Apple's Jade. Now, what about you with Altior? Because you'd already backed him for the Champion Hurdle, hadn't you?
What a disaster
now,
that was.
So he's going chasing. The new one's going chasing. Are there any British horses that can possibly repel these Irish Raiders in the Champion Hurdle?
No, absolutely no shot. I mean, I think our best prospect is probably Yanworth, who was second to York Hill in the 2.5 mile. I think he'd rather like York Hill. He'll come back to 2 miles and that'll suit him. But to think he can give £7 to Annie Power or beat Faugheen's stretching. I thought Altior was, and whatever he was, about 12 to 1 did have a shot, because he was really impressive in the Supreme. But I can't see it myself. I can't see anything in there. I mean, maybe something will come up. Dan Skelton is very keen on his horse that won the Scottish Champion Hurdle, Cheetah Bello. He thinks he's a graded horse, but they're miles off Faugheen and Annie Power at the moment.
Let's look at the 3 mile and the staying hurdle division. Obviously, Thistlecrack intending to go chasing. As Patrick said, Big Bucks intended to go chasing and then came back and dominated the stayers hurdle scene again. So it's not impossible that we'll still be around. But what's the betting? I guess this is another wide open one, isn't it? The World Hurdle, Frank?
We're 5 to 2 for Faugheen, 4 to 1 Thistlecrack, 7 to 1 Vroom Vroom Mag, 8 to 1 Nichols Canyon and Annie Power, 10 to 1 Yanworth, 12 to 1 Jesky Shane's Hill and Ballyoptic, and 14 to 1 Bar.
Which of those, Patrick, of the Close Sutton Crusaders would you most advocate that our listeners focus on for the World Hurdle?
I think Nicholas Canyon is our, Nicholas Canyon is probably the highest class one there. 3 miles is a little question mark because he's quite keen the way he races, but as he gets older now, he might settle it better. So I think that's probably the plan for him. Shane's Hill, likewise, he was no match for Thistlecrack in Aintree, but ran very well regardless. And again, Vroom Vroom is a possible there. But I think Nicholas would probably be the number one definite hope at the minute.
Tom, you got a view on the race?
No, I think a lot depends obviously on the Richie horses. If Faugheen turns up here, then he's a different class to them. Bar Thistlecrack, I think. I can't see Annie turning up. Nichols Canyon ran really well in the Cheltenham Hurdle, didn't he? He was Champion Hurdle. He was third, beaten 5 lengths or something last year. So he's, I agree with Patrick. I think him stepping up to 3 miles will see him in a different light. And then, your horse you were talking about earlier, Ballyoptic, he's done nothing wrong, has he? I mean, he was a good winner at Aintree, looked as good as ever back at Cheltenham, Chepstow on his comeback. I think he's done nothing wrong and he's going to stay well. So, of the ones I've mentioned there, I think Ballyoptic, as your man says, is probably an interesting play at about 16 to 1.
Frank, do you have a view on this one?
Well, I thought if Faugheen ended up in this race, you'd be doing well to get odds against. But I thought that Ballyoptic was very impressive at Chepstow, considering the trip was probably on the short side for him. And he looks young and improving, and he looks a fair shout at this stage.
Frank, I know that, obviously the old guessing game, who's going to go for what, confounds a lot of people. I think you've got some prices on horses just to win any race at Cheltenham, don't you? Just to take the kind of guessing out of the equation. Obviously, you get a much shorter price, but can you just run us through a few of the prices in that market?
So to win any race of the festival, we're 4-7 Duvan, 6-4 Vautour and Danny Power, 7-4 Faugheen, 15-8 Thistlecrack, 2-1 York Hill, Vroom Vroom Mag, Limini, Apples Jade, and 5-2 Altior.
Patrick, what's the best value out of those?
Oh,
You can probably have Can we have multiples on
can
that?
you have multiples?
No reason why not, is there?
No.
Good. Give us a Goliath then, Patrick.
Geez. I don't know, 9 months or 6 months in advance. But look, I think we made no secret of how much we think of Duvan. I think wherever he goes, I think it'd be hard to beat.
Excellent. We will talk novices next.
Here's Paddy Power's latest horse racing offer. It's money back as a free bet if your horse finishes second to the SP Fav in all races at one meeting today and at one meeting every day this month. Max £25 per race, 18 plus, gambleaware.co.uk.
OK, let's look at the novices now. Obviously, it's much, much tougher because as novices, they've got very little racing under their belts, and so we're taking a bit of a pump with some of these. But we'll start off, Frank Hickey, with Paddy Power's show on the Racing Post Arkle.
It's 3-1 Altior, 6-1 Main, 8-1 York Hill, 12-1 Belvedere, 16-1 Identity Thief, and Top Notch, and 20-1 Bar.
Tom, out of sheer anger, are you going to lump on Altior here?
No, I would never lump on a horse at that sort of price before I'd seen him jump, Bruce. He's a real big favourite of mine, but interesting, Patrick there was talking about York Hill maybe sticking over hurdles, so that sort of maybe makes the 3-1 more interesting. But I'm quite interested in Henry de Bromhead's horse here, Identity Thief. I thought I think I never really fancied him for the Champion Hurdle last year, but he did have some good form running up to it. He was only just beaten by Nichols Canyon. He won the Fighting Fifth at Newcastle. He then gave Vroom Vroom a race at Punchestown. He looks like a chaser to me. I think he'll be better over fences. I know Henry thought that he would beat, he's by Cave Tara out of Flemmersmouth Mercer. He's bred to jump. A little bit disappointing in the Champion Hurdle, but I think he's better than that. And I thought, of all those on that list, I thought 16-1 about him was interesting.
OK, what about the old Min, Patrick?
Yeah, Min is back in. Probably he's going to go chasing. He does look like a chaser. I don't know if anyone saw him in Cheltenham last year, but he's a tall, leggy horse. Also looks like the kind of horse that might improve for an extra year. I don't think there was anything lost part of the race and getting beat by Altior looks a bit special. So, I think the Arkle is a ready-made race for him, but to be honest, if York Hill goes there, I don't think anything will touch him.
Really?
I think he's different gravy. I mean, I rode him in 2 with bumpers, and I've ridden him at home a few times, and he's a horse I love.
Love that. Very bullish, Patrick. Frank, have you got an early Arkle fancy?
I have now.
Well, yeah, quite.
Well, if I thought York Hill was going to the Arkle, 8-1 would be pretty big, all right.
Yeah, we need to get this broadcast out early because you know what Frank will do. He'll trim that to 6s by the time anyone's listened to Patrick there. RSA, give us a quick splurge of prices there, Frankie boy.
We're 6-1 Thistlecrack, 12-1 Alpha Deso Bow, 12-1 Up Hotty San, 14-1 One Track Mind and Bells Hill, and 20-1 Bar. Well,
first of all, the question here, Tom, is if Thistlecrack does take to chases, he's surely going to go straight to Gold Cup, isn't he?
Yeah, he won't run in this. If he does anything, the two options for him, I would imagine, are the World Hurdle if he doesn't jump and the Gold Cup if he does. So therefore, that sort of rules him out of this.
Alpha Des Obo wasn't too impressive, was he, when he made his debut over the biggest?
I wouldn't be too worried about that. He's got some good crown form. I thought he travelled really, really well in the World Hurdle. He's clearly no Thistlecrack, but he's pretty good. And if there was nothing brilliant in the race, then he'd definitely be on the short list. I do like Paul Nicholls' horse Au Petit Soin for this. I think he had a shocking preparation for the World Hurdle last year, but I thought he ran with a lot of credit, and I think this is his year. I think they're very bullish about his chances coming into this year. Whether he's a real slogger, I don't know, but he won a Coral Cup And then you've got to mention Willie Mullins' Bells Hill, who did nothing wrong again last year.
OK, Patrick, well, if Yorker would be different gravy as far as the Arkle is concerned, do you have something equally dominant in your thoughts for the RSA?
Not particularly. Bells Hill is the obvious one. I would wonder, would he actually be more effective over 2.5? The day I rode him in Aintree, he travels so strongly. And I know he made a bad mistake in the second last, but he got very, very tired after the last. And the same in Punchdown, he looked like he was going to win easy and sort of maybe didn't win as easy as he could have. So I wouldn't be hugely surprised if he dropped back to the Houston or JLP. Up for Review is a horse. He's tricky to keep right, but on his day he's a very, very talented horse, and he'd stay and jump. So he's one that could be a big price for the RSA.
What price is he, Frank? Up for Review.
Patrick,
33 to 1.
33 to 1.
I thought you'd be all over him for the 4 miler. It's the first horse you've ever come on here and said, "Oh, he'd be great for the." He hasn't, but he'd be great for the 4 miler, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he could be. He does. He could be a 4 miler horse as well, but you weren't asking about the 4 milers.
Well, I was going to come to that actually, Patrick, because I know you do like the old 4 miler, don't you? It's a race that obviously, given that you are able to participate in, I think you keep a very close eye on that. I mean, if Up for Review is going to go the shorter option, who might that leave you with, or is it way too early to say?
There's nothing standing out. I mean, out of Bartlett horses last year, kind of like Baxton, Over the Flow, Long Dog, I don't think any of them are going to be 4 mile horses. So there's nothing standing out for the minute. Up for Review is definitely a possible. Whether he just settles well enough for 4 miles will be a slight question, but he might with another year racing under his belt.
Okie doke. Right, well, let's look at the Supreme, and I've got a vested interest in this because I've already backed one, and it is one of yours, Patrick. What's the latest on the Supreme from Paddy Power?
It's 10 to 1 Senna Walk and Moon Racer, 16 to 1 Ballyandy, Mellon, Clinton Hill, 20 to 1 Battleford, Castella Sforza, Jenkins and Chateau Conti, and 25 to 1 Bar.
Come on then, Patrick. What about Mellon?
Mellon is a very nice horse. Did a few nice bits of work at the end of last season. Wouldn't have done anything strenuous. So, gun hasn't put to his head, but what he did very well. Likewise, Senna Walk. And it's been quite dry over here in Ireland, so we haven't been working them hard yet here. Now, we had a wet weekend, so we'll probably start to up them in the coming days. But Mellon and Senna Walk have done everything we've asked, but we haven't asked an awful lot of them. So,
bit too early to get too excited, yeah?
Yeah, a horse mentioned there that I rode, a horse called Jenkins. If he improved as much as Altior did from his bumpers to his novice hurdle season, he'd be a very good horse. He got beaten. I think he got beaten by an exceptional horse in Punchdown, who unfortunately, I believe, might have been killed over the summer out in the field, Robert Tyner's horse. But the horses that were 3rd and 4th in that bumper happened to run the same bumper in Galway about a week or 10 days ago, and they finished 15 lengths clear. So the form is very, very strong. And if Jenkins can improve like Altior did, I think he'd have to take him very seriously.
Excellent. Have you sussed one, Tom?
He stole my thunder, Bruce. He stole my thunder. A friend of mine is down in Lambon, and the only horse they talk about is Jenkins at the Henderson Yard. They think he's a really, really good horse. That I think it was. As Patrick says, the form of that bumper is very good. It was only his second ever run. Bar the Mullins team, the next trainer on the list you'd look for a Supreme horse would be Nicky Henderson. If he gets there and he's as good as they think he is, then he's no 20 to 1 shot.
Okay, before we wrap, let's get a dark horse from each of you that we have yet to mention, and then we'll get one horse to follow. Could be a big name, could be a dark horse. So, Tom, any dark horses that we haven't mentioned that are lurking there that you think should be on people's radars and in their horse tracker?
Yeah, well, I was doing this the other day. I was going through some of the old tapes and stuff, and I had a good look at the Scottish champion hurdle last year. Bruce, and it was a really strong race. Ivan Grozny, Patrick would know all about. Wicklow Brave, I think, ran in it. And the first two home, Cheetah of Dan Skelton's and especially Cloudy Dream of Malcolm Jefferson's, I think are serious horses to follow. I thought that was a really strong race, really well-run race, and I think Cloudy Dream, who's by Cloudings, the same sire as the Grand National winner.
Okay, Patrick.
He's going to take he's going to go to the top.
Jolly good. Patrick, which one have you got for us that we haven't mentioned yet and we should know all about?
A dark horse, actually one outside the stable that I wrote my Aunt Mags last year, a mare called She's Otto. I got beaten on her in Fairy House, and I just got absolutely no run, and she flew home very late and was very unlucky. And she came out the next day in Goran and won a race, actually named memory of a friend of mine who was killed off a horse, which was nice. But she won very, very impressively that day, and I think if she was in ours, she'd be in all the top lists. And I haven't heard her mentioned once in pre-season, and I think she's a serious mare. To go back and look at her performance, both her performances, they were top notch.
And just give her a name. Give us her name again, Patrick.
She's Otto. She's Otto.
Okay. And Frank, what's your dark horse?
And my dark horse to follow this year is Winter Escape of Alan King. It only had 3 runs last year. Won the Dovecot in Kempton. It's after getting a mark of 142. Maracuja is rated 140, was beaten a length and a quarter, and Welsh Shadow was further behind again. He ran okay in the Welsh Champion at the weekend. I think this could pick up a big handicap before the season's out, possibly the Great Wood.
Lovely stuff. There are your dark horses. Who are your big name horses to follow? Who's the horse that you think is going to sweep all before you? Tom Siegel.
Same every year, Bruce. Has been for the last 4, Annie.
Annie Power. Patrick Mullins.
Oh, York Hill.
York Hill. And Frank Hickey. Faheen. Excellent stuff. Thank you very much, chaps. We've covered a lot of ground there, and your wisdom is greatly appreciated. Do please join us on Friday when we're looking ahead to the Racing Post Trophy, and we will be back on Monday with a review postcast as well. So lots coming up. Stick with us on the Racing Postcasts.
The Racing Postcast in association with Paddy Power. They stream all UK and Irish racing live on your mobile, tablet or PC.